Hey everybody, welcome to Rampage Reviews. I'm Rampage, and this is my introduction into a Timothy Zahn novel, my first Thrawn novel that I have gotten to read, and wow, what a ride. Let's dive in. So the book we're diving into today is Outbound Flight. It's written by Timothy Zahn. It takes place 27 BBY, and oh my gosh, what a story. It's amazing. I loved it. I hadn't read Timothy Zahn before. I know he has written a lot of Thrawn novels. He wrote the trilogy that everybody believed should have been the sequel trilogy at some point. We didn't get that, which is fine. The books are great from what I hear, and I can't wait to get into those later. But I just want to take a moment to remind everybody that if you'd like to follow along on this journey with me, there will be a link in the description for this book as well as the next 3 books that I'll be reading, so that way you can have these discussions in depth without you being worried about the spoilers that are in the video. So if you would like to purchase those books, you can click on those links. Just be aware that I'm an Amazon affiliate, so if you do use those links, it will benefit me or the channel in some way. Really appreciate it if you do. Please don't do it just to support me. Do it so we can continue the conversation. There's so much into this story that I don't even want to say. The story starts here and then walk you through because I'll be talking for 30 minutes. There's so much that happens. I just want to kind of break it down into little groups of what happens. So they introduce a group of smugglers, Kento, Maris, and Cardass, and they're running away from Praga the Hutt, who is chasing them in the name of Drixo the Hutt, who they owe a debt to. They have a large procurement of valuables on board that they need to pay to Drixo the Hutt. Well, in the midst of them running away, Thrawn, who you don't realize it's Thrawn right away, but it's a Chiss force, captures Prago and the group of smugglers. The smugglers don't know what's going on, but eventually they are taken onto Thrawn's ship. He introduces himself. They don't know how to talk to him at first because Thrawn doesn't speak Basic. Nobody in the unknown regions speaks Basic from what I understand. They finally settle on a language called Cybisti. Eventually, the smugglers agree to teach Thrawn Basic if Thrawn teaches them Chun, which is the Chiss language. So there's several scenes that take place that kind of outline Thrawn's military prowess, outlines what the Chiss face and their political struggles, as well as Thrawn's agenda, and as well as Thrawn's military agenda and his values in terms of what he believes he should be accomplishing in his position. One of his major enemies, or what he views as his enemy, are the Vigari, and mainly because I guess they attack random systems, but they also allow slavery in their system, which Thrawn really hates. He also learns that from the smugglers he talks to. Does the Republic have slavery? And they say, well, yeah, we do. And he says, why do they allow that? And he says, well, because we don't try to get into the politics of every single system under our rule. And to where that completely contradicts Thrawn's agenda in a sense, because this group of people is willing to attack all of these people and enslave these people, that he has an obligation to then attack them so that way they can never bring those attacks to the Chiss people. So a lot of these battles take place. There's a couple of them actually that take place between his force and the Vigari. This kind of lands him in a little bit of hot water because the other Chiss people, there's 9 ruling families apparently. A couple of them don't agree with his military agenda, and they actually try to arrest him at some point. They want to save him from himself, is what they kind of put it like. Elsewhere in the story, there's a Jedi master by the name of Jorus C'baoth, I think that's how you pronounce it, who is trying to push forth a project called Outbound Flight, the name of the book. This is basically an exploratory mission that he's trying to take on, and they're trying to explore other systems that they can colonize, or also try to find other Force-sensitive people to bring into the Jedi. He's trying to skirt the age requirement, and he's kind of using Anakin's apprenticeship as a justification to do that, even though Anakin was deemed the chosen one. I guess Jorus doesn't really buy that, or at least doesn't buy that reason. He says, hey, well, if he can do it, I can do it with anybody else, because Jedi need to build their numbers. That's his argument. There's 18 Jedi, 19 actually if you include Obi-Wan and Anakin, who later joined that weren't a part of the original list, and 50,000 people that are on this ship, and they have enough supplies to last them over 10 years. It's a very, very long exploratory expedition. Now, thirdly, you have a person named Doriana, who also goes by Commander Stratus, and he works for Chancellor Palpatine in the militaristic administrative position, but also works as an assistant to Lord Sidious, who he does not know that they're the same person. He's just working for both of them in separate capacities. Sidious wants Outbound Flight to be approved, and he wants it to be approved so that way he can destroy Outbound Flight. He wants to kill all of these Jedi. I believe that's his agenda here. It's going to help undermine the Jedi in his mind, and if he can take out 6 Jedi Masters and 12 Jedi Knights, I guess that's a win for him. He tells Doriana to travel with a Trade Federation leader named Cav. He is a Vice Lord to the Trade Federation, and they're supposed to travel to a location that Outbound Flight is expected to arrive at so they can ambush them and attack and destroy them with the Trade Federation's droid army. I'm skipping a lot of stuff here, but what you have is kind of a 4-way meeting between Outbound Flight, the Vigari, the Trade Federation with Doriana, and Thrawn's Chiss force. I believe that the Trade Federation and Thrawn were there first. Thrawn happens upon the Trade Federation vessel, and he hails them down to determine if they're a threat. He also knows that they're from the Republic because the smugglers tell him that. He's saying that he's suspicious that maybe the smugglers wanted them there to attack him. I think he's using that as a front, where if they saw Thrawn as a threat, it would allow the smugglers to remain with the Trade Federation so that way they can work internally, because now now they have a trust between each other, Thrawn and the smugglers. Now, on schedule, Outbound Flight then arrives also. Thrawn sees them coming, tries to hail them, and give them the opportunity to turn around and leave or they'll be destroyed. That's basically what he tells them. Master C'baoth doesn't want to hear any of that, actually prepares to defend against the Trade Federation vessel that Thrawn is on now. Now, also, the Vegari show up. They were led there by one of the smugglers who snuck off and sought an audience with the Vegari leaders, convinced them to try to go to the Chiss base and told them where it was and said, hey, we have some valuables there that we were promised that we haven't gotten yet. This had to do with another fight with the Vegari earlier, and I will tell you where the base is so that you can help us procure those valuables and we can be on our way. So on the way there, they are stopped because it's in their hyperspace path. They see Outbound Flight and the Trade Federation vessel there. They try to attack Outbound Flight, who then Master C'baoth attacks them, and he uses a technique called the Jedi meld, where a bunch of Jedi can fuse their minds together, I guess, and act as one person. C'baoth controls the rest of the Jedi and acts as one mind, and that allows him to use their force powers as one giant force power, and then he numbs the minds of the Vegari and is able to attack them pretty effectively. Now, Thrawn sees this attack happening. Now he sees his opportunity to attack Outbound Flight and the Vegari, which he does. He takes out the Vegari pretty easily, along with Outbound Flight. They kind of do it together. But then when he attacks Outbound Flight, C'baoth sees it, and he then tries to reach out with the Force to attack Thrawn. He hails him on his communication and says, "You're trying to attack me," and stuff like that. So Thrawn then gets force choked by C'baoth. C'baoth has turned to the dark side at this point because he's so upset about what's going on. Doriana sees him getting choked and says, "I got to do something." So he takes the droid starfighter unit that Thrawn took from him, and he outfitted it with nuclear weapons apparently, and they're supposed to suicide bomb. So he suicide bombs them into Outbound Flight's dreadnoughts, which then kills C'baoth, releases Thrawn. He's released, and all of them are dead because of what this nuclear device is supposed to do. It's supposed to kill everything throughout every corridor in the ship. Now he misses 57 people who were in the storage core. That was the only place he didn't hit. Thrawn is almost about to be arrested. His 8th ruling family comes and says, "We're going to take control of Outbound Flight." Thrawn says, "No, you can't do that." He leaves. Now, among the 57 people that survived, there was a lone Jedi named Lorana Jinsler, who is throughout the book, but like I said, trying to condense this down, and it's really difficult. But Lorana and Thrawn's brother stay on Outbound Flight, and they basically take it away, so that way the ruling Chiss family can't take it from Thrawn. Thrawn says, "Hey, the ship's gone. You can't hold me accountable, and I have an item that this other admiral is going to want part of this ruling family. So if you demote me, then they're never going to get that item because I'm not a part of the Chiss military anymore." So they leave him alone. Thrawn is able to leave. One of the smugglers gets offered a job within the Republic. You know, everybody kind of goes off in peace apparently at that point, and Thrawn survives. So, oh my gosh, it's hard for me to be concise as it is, so I hope I wasn't too wordy with that. It's a long book, but it's an awesome book. I loved it. It was great. The characters all have a lot of color and depth. The politics are really interesting. Learning about the Chiss hierarchy in politics is really interesting. Thrawn has got to be one of the most interesting characters in Star Wars that I've ever seen or read. I know a lot of you will probably agree with that already, and many people who are familiar with his stories probably agree with that. Now, I have yet to be able to compare a lot of the Thrawn Legends material with how he was portrayed in Ahsoka. There was a lot of anger with the way he was portrayed. Maybe he wasn't aggressive enough. He wasn't as smart as he is in the books, and maybe that's true, but once I get there, I'll be able to make that determination, and then I'll kind of give my 2 cents about that. But my only complaint really is that some of the dialogue gets a little bit wordy, which I can relate to, but for me, I actually really liked it. But now, on to interesting things. The Trade Federation 5 years later still has not been punished by the Republic, and I don't know if Chancellor Palpatine in his capacity as Lord Sidious did this intentionally, because we know that one of the viceroys survives because he gets killed by Anakin in episode 3. But did the Senate push to have them punished, or do they understand that they still operate in a pretty strong capacity at this point? We do know they become separatists as well, because they're always a part of the separatist meetings between General Grievous and other separatist leaders. Considering how in the wrong they were proved to be during the Battle of Naboo and their occupation of Naboo, I guess I just felt like that the Senate and others would be more aggressive in making sure they were punished. But that could also be a tribute to just how strong Lord Sidious is in controlling the minds and decisions of the Senate body. So when he says, "I am the Senate," he really is the Senate. When Thrawn first meets the group of smugglers that are running away from Praga the Hutt, he introduces himself as Chiss Mithranurodo, I don't know how to pronounce that, of the Chiss Ascendancy, and he is on the Springhawk Picket Force 2 command vessel of the Expansionary Defense Fleet. Now, I only took note of this because the name of the fleet, the Expansionary Defense Fleet, seems like a contradictory name to me. If you're an expansionary fleet, it seems like your attempt there is to expand in an imperial way, but then it's also a defense fleet. So in defense of their expansion agenda, I don't understand that name at all. If Expansionary Defense Fleet wasn't contradictory enough, Thrawn also suggests that the Chiss don't invade territories and they don't attack unless they're attacked first. Now, if you're a part of the Expansionary Defense Fleet, would this mean that you would attack attack in the interest of expanding? Or maybe would this mean that you attack others that you believe could potentially be a threat to expand, but then preemptively defend your people? I just kind of thought of that in real time. That might be what that's for, but it kind of screws with your mind for a little bit. I established before that nobody in the unknown region speaks basic, or at least that's what it seems to be. The Vagari don't speak basic, Thrawn and the Chiss don't speak basic. They speak their own language called Chun. There's a couple other languages that they speak, Cybisti, Minisiat, and they all have their unique functions, those languages. It really speaks to how smart Admiral Thrawn is. The fact that he took on the language of basic so quickly, he was speaking it extremely proficiently not that far into the book. It would stand to reason that the Chiss species as a whole are just capable of some pretty incredibly intelligent things. Not just Admiral Thrawn, but even amongst his own species, he proves to be a strategic genius, and I just can't wait to read more stories about him. In Star Wars Rogue Planet, there was a Jedi that went missing named Vergeri, and she went missing while investigating the planet Zonama Seacat. They had a society that created ships, items that were living things. One group that she was tasked with chasing away were the Far Outsiders, and they were just very briefly mentioned in the last book. They are somewhat briefly mentioned in this book also, but it is an agenda item for Lord Sidious to know more about that group, the Far Outsiders. And the search for Vergeri also continues in C'baoth's agenda with Outbound Flight, because that is one of the items he hopes to accomplish while on this mission, is searching for Vergeri. So that story continues from the last book. Chiss are a really intelligent species, but they also have never encountered droids, and neither of the Vagari either in this book. They've never seen them, they've never operated them. The fact that they've operated this well without droids is just a testament to their abilities. They consider themselves warriors, the Chiss do, and strong, capable, intelligent warriors they are. And not that droids are necessary to make more intelligent decisions, but there's a lot of things that the droids do that free up time for you to accomplish other things, much like computers do. But the fact that the Chiss never saw this as necessary, considering they still have very good technology to lean on, is nothing short of amazing. It's hard to determine when somebody talks about a Jedi and calls them Master Kenobi or Master Skywalker if they are actually addressing them with a title that they earned of Master. Anakin never earned the title of Master or the rank of Master before he turned into Darth Vader, but in this book he is addressed as Master Skywalker, which he's a Padawan, so I don't know why they would have called him Master Skywalker in the book. And also Obi-Wan Kenobi is known as Master Kenobi. Kenobi does turn into a master, but we don't know when. When did that happen? It obviously would have happened between the last book and this book, because I don't believe he was a master in the last book. Why are Jedi being called master if they are not masters? Is that a slip up by the author? What's going on? Really, in the book, it seems like Thrawn is giving up military knowledge and facts about his ship and his people just willingly to these smugglers that he barely even knows. And at first I'm like, is he just that arrogant that he's giving up these secrets and doesn't know if they have anything planned for him or them? Also, Thrawn just knows everything that's going on around him at all times, and he is constantly planning. Even when he's resting, he's planning, he's strategizing. He's one of the most careful characters that you see in Star Wars, where if he gives up information, there's a point to it, there's a reason to it. First, it seemed careless, but the more you read, you're like, he's obviously got a reason he's doing this, and he knows something that we don't know yet. Thrawn is a connoisseur of art, and we know that from Rebels, we know it from Clone Wars. He has always loved art in a lot of different forms. He views military action as art, and really the way he executes it is art. You see it again in this book, where there's a lot of valuables that slaves of the Vagari hold on his ship that was attacked, and he looks around and he sees the different art, and he is able to determine the race of the person, or at least what the person looked like and physically could do based on how the art was made. He didn't necessarily know what the race was called, but he knew if they had 3 fingers, he knew how many legs they had, he knew what they were going through when they made it. What he can derive from art is pretty amazing. Master C'baoth is a very aggressive Jedi, to say the least. He's aggressive and stubborn and blunt, and when he's discussing things with people, he doesn't hold back his opinions, and he can be very persistent in getting what he wants. And Anakin really idolizes this. It's a testament to just how direct Anakin becomes when he becomes General Skywalker. He prefers action over waiting and strategizing. He always tries to take action to quickly resolve whatever obstacle that he has in front of him. So him viewing C'baoth take this very method in the way that he mediates and the way that he discusses with people makes a lot of sense, seeing the way General Skywalker acts later. In the High Republic, the Jedi really took on this role of guiding the Republic towards the light. So whenever the Republic would try to make decisions that might bring them over to the dark side, even though they're not Jedi, they still can make decisions that lead the Republic to a dark place. The Jedi try to bring them to the light side and to stay in the light. And it seems more and more that the Jedi are less guiding the Republic to the light and more answering to the Senate about things that they're required to do, and really becoming soldiers, as we see in the Clone Wars and later on. It's just another foreshadowing of the fall of the Jedi. They not only lost touch with the Force and their role in the galaxy, but they lost their role within the Republic in terms of what they're supposed to do in guiding the Republic to light-sided decision making. And that could be a testament to the stranglehold that Sidious has on the Senate and maybe clouding the Jedi's judgment as well. We see several different versions of crystals that Jedi use for their lightsabers. We know know the crystals are called kyber crystals. Whether those kyber crystals come from different places in the galaxy and then take on different names is an argument. In this book, they're called alum crystals. I don't know if that means that alum is a certain place that they find them at, and they're still kyber crystals. They don't say kyber crystal in the book, but we've also heard them called Adegan crystals. That was in Master and Apprentice that we read before. I don't know if different authors just haven't settled on the right name for the crystals when they finally arrive at kyber crystal for the official name of the crystal, or if this just points to different places you could find kyber crystals. You see several examples of Master C'baoth and the way that he operates in the book with regards to just how aggressive he is, stubborn. He definitely doesn't seem like the typical Jedi, even though he gets a lot of respect from the Jedi Council and other Jedi because he's been around for years. I think it's over 25 years, something like that. But like I said earlier, he turns to the dark side later when he's trying to fight Thrawn and reaches out and force chokes him across space. That, to the ending of his life, it's foreshadowed throughout the entire book. It was pretty obvious to begin with that, well, this could be a guy that's probably going to succumb to the dark side at some point because he's just angry all the time and he's always trying to get his way. And then throughout ruling over Outbound Flight, he's trying to rule over the people and create his own little version of what he thinks that the Jedi Temple should be and what he thinks the Republic should be. He thinks the Jedi should be leading, even though the Jedi know if they were to take on that role, there is this pull to the dark side they'll always be experiencing, and it's just not the right role for them. But his foreshadowing to the dark side was pretty obvious from the beginning. Thrawn mentions that he doesn't know what Jedi are, and the smugglers that are with him have to explain to him what Jedi are. And it got me thinking, were there any Chiss Jedi? Is this something that the author is trying to suggest, that the Chiss are just so far removed from Republic life that they don't know what Jedi are? Or maybe he just got it wrong or isn't consistent with other storytelling? But apparently any Chiss Jedi that lived were female. I don't know if they were all female, but mostly female. And then also Chiss Jedi lose their abilities as they get older. So when they get older and older, they lose their connection to the Force and their ability to wield the Force. So this might be a reason why you don't see very many Chiss Jedi, and it would make sense that Thrawn wouldn't know what the Jedi are if that were the case. Who we know Thrawn to be is very villainistic in the Clone Wars, Rebels, and even in Ahsoka. But when you learn about what he went through early in regards to this book, because this is a very early telling of Thrawn's accolades, you root for him a lot. He's kind of an anti-hero in that sense. I think complex villains have always been a favorite of people in sci-fi and stuff like that. But just the fact that his goal has always been to try to prevent violent forces from attacking his own people if there was the potential for that to happen. And especially since those forces also had slavery and they felt like that was just something that he had to do away with, then you realize his intentions are very good. Now, we know that good intentions don't always have the greatest results, but you still kind of root for him in a way when you find that out. Master C'baoth in the book introduces the Jedi Meld, and it's a technique that one or several Jedi can use to fuse their minds together to act as one mind and wield the Force in a very, very strong way from one mind. It got me thinking, this is really similar to a couple of different concepts that we've already read about in Legends and other Star Wars books. One being the Thought Bomb with the Sith, and that was back in the Darth Bane series. Those minds fused together to create a large Force bomb, and it's supposed to capture the souls around it into the Thought Bomb, and then it stays there as just an essence forever. Another instance that I saw was when Darth Carad in Annihilation had the Ascendant Spear, and she was hooked up to it, and then used her two apprentices and acted as one mind with them just to be able to pilot the vessel because it took so much Force power. So lots of different techniques that you learn about in Legends that have to do with Force users combining their mental strength. Master C'baoth later turns to the dark side, so you can how aggressive and blunt and arrogant he is. Not a good representation of the rest of the Jedi, but there is one point where he learns the name Darth Sidious, and when he learns it, he says, well, that's a Sith title, and we know they don't exist. That's a bunch of BS. And first you're like, well, that just shows the arrogance of the Jedi, but also Lorana Jinsler was in the presence of him when she heard him say that. So the fact that other Jedi heard that title but then didn't act upon it, I believe she dies later in the book anyway. So many signs that the Sith lived and existed. The Jedi just ignored them all. So that concludes the things that I found interesting in the book. As far as a rating goes, like I said, the dialogue can get a bit wordy. I don't know if everybody would enjoy that, but it's definitely an amazing book. I'm spoiled to the point that if I read another Timothy Zahn book and I don't enjoy it, I'm going to be very upset because he seems like an amazing writer and I just couldn't put it down. I think I read half the book in one setting. It was just an amazing book. So I'm going to give it a 9.0. If it were just me, which I liked it, it'd be 9.4, but we're going to go 9.0 as an unbiased rating. I suggest everybody purchase and read it, hopefully through my links, but just such a great book to read. So I appreciate everybody that stopped by to view the content today. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed the content. May the Force be with you and everybody have a great rest of your day. Thank you.